Well, hello everybody, Athorax here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a huge Barb fan and a Barb player. I've been playing Diablo since pretty much 2004 and Barb since 2008 through Diablo 2, Diablo 3 and now Diablo 4. Basically for me, every season is a Barb game. There's no other class for me apart from Barb. So yeah, huge fan, and today I like to talk to you about one of the builds that I have been kind of theory crafting for the past week, and that I actually am testing now on the PTR. Now it's only a PTR, so we don't know if it's going to last, but there's a good chance the build might keep its shape more or less, and if it does, that means quite good news for everybody playing Barb. Looks like a very solid build. We're gonna talk about Iron Maelstrom today, so without further ado, I'm gonna show you now. It's it surprised me, right? So I'll just give you like a bit of a comparison. Right now I'm playing on the Live Realms Deathblow Barb. He pretty much crits and overpowers for about 40 billions or so, and he's masterworked, pumped up to the sky as well as he can be, and he's still kind of struggling with pits. He doesn't have even the intensity of the build. But Iron Maelstrom here, on the other hand, looks quite promising. I have dabbled in this build before on season 4 briefly, but now this is something else. I'm going to show you now. I'm not sure if they intentionally pretty much broke it, or it has been pretty much the damage numbers here have done for a reason, but they are impressive. Regardless of that, I'm just gonna show you first a quick overview of the build. There will be a link in the description so you can kind of check the build yourself on D4 builds, pretty much from top to bottom. But I'm just gonna go into the training grounds and I'll show you first the skill tree. It's quite straightforward, nothing too complicated. So number one skill tree is pretty much kind of simplish. You go off and you start off with Frenzy, especially when you're leveling up, so it's a bit easier. You just get your classic passives, which give you more damage. Warpath, Belligerence. It's a 3-shot based build. Absolutely simple and old. All the life damage reduction passives. Max life, duration of shouts, damage reduction, a lot of the crit and the other passives. This is a new kind of changed up passive, so you might want to really look into this one. It's quite great. So I'll get to it in a bit, and why it's very crucial for the build. And obviously everything else now with the new kind of aspects, legendary aspects, we're able to kind of from gear and from skill points and everything else, we're able to reach to 13 ranks to Iron Maelstrom, basically to any ult really, so it's quite interesting. And then we've got the wall up here, which is sometimes it's being used, sometimes it's not, depends if you're using swords or not. And then we got the walking arsenal. So pretty much more or less an Iron Maelstrom build. Oh yeah, 22 points to heavy hitter. That's something else. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. I'll pretty much show you the aspects as well. That's why we got so many heavy hitters, is because of the aspects. And of course the new tempering manuals. So when it comes to the aspects, there are a few new aspects. So casting an ultimate skill increases your ultimate damage by 360%. Look at that, at 10 stacks of course. The cooldowns in this bonus are reset. So basically, every time you reach the 10th stack, everything here resets. So you can kind of pre-spam it and then spam it again, and then reset it again, then spam it again. So it's quite agile when it comes to cooldown reductions. You don't even need that much cooldown reduction, but there are other reasons for that cooldown reduction, to which I'll get in a bit. The other one is gain 4 additional ultimate skill ranks and gain more damage, right? So Iron Maelstrom has been kind of working from before, but now with these two new aspects, and basically with the addition of with the combination of Battle Mat aspect and the you know, classical Earth Striker, the build really kicks into gear. Like it's absolutely crazy. You do want to have a Shaco. Gives you 4 more ranks to all skills. I did test it against the Ugly Bastard Helm, and to be fair with you, they kind of pretty much do both the same damage. You could stick up, because Ugly Bastard Helm is going to be very, very popular this season. You could stick up with the Ugly Bastard Helm and maybe kind of do a combo, or kind of a option where you have an Earthquake build with the Iron Maelstrom build, but looks like Iron Maelstrom is quite strong on his own and he's able to kind of clear, and he's got the AoE and he's got the intensity and the damage to be able to do things on itself. So if you really want to go up for a pure Iron Maelstrom build, Harlequin Crest is the way, I suppose. Shroud is useful in so many ways. Like it also gives you 1 to all passives, but there's some other hidden perks as well which it does, and it's basically great. You could go for Ethereals, but I wouldn't recommend it. T-Bolts, pretty much a must, I would say, for the extra damage and everything else. Yeah, and here is the funny part. So basically Rakan for more cooldown reduction. I'll explain, even though our cooldowns get reset quite often, I'll explain why we need more cooldown reduction in a bit. This bad boy. So this is pretty much the stats. You really wanna like invest into damage to injured. It will multiply your Iron Maelstrom damage. At first I thought of going to heavy hitter, because if you actually masterwork the heavy hitter properly, you can get 9 to heavy hitter, and that's 15% more multiplicative damage per each rank. However, it turns out that damage to injured is even more valuable, so that's why we're going with it, and we're trying to kind of masterwork as much as we can into it. So yeah, let's pretty much show you the build a bit in action, then we'll go to the Paragon boards as well. So, quite simple. You do want to make sure that you start off with the two-handers. So if there's a weapon swap, your rotation is kind of messed up. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you always start with your one-hander weapons, really, like swords, one-handed swords or maces, anything else like that. So there's no weapon swaps. So when you start the rotation, basically you do 3 weapon swaps like that, right? So basically you want to swap your weapons 9 times, and on the 9th time it's going to overpower and it's going to give you that huge damage boost, right? So this is the idea pretty much. So essentially your rotation is after the third stack, pop your 3 shouts, steel grasp, and then you start basically spamming everything, and pretty much that's it. And now again the cooldowns reset because of the aspect, so you keep on just basically spamming steel grasp and Iron Maelstrom. You can notice that every third rotation we overpower for huge damage. That's because of the Earth Striker, and yeah, it's quite good. So basically, as you heat up, you get this bonus where you do even more damage. I'll show you in a bit from the Paragon board. It's kind of crazy, like the damage numbers you can pull off here. It's as you can see, 166 billion or 199, depending on what you're doing, really. 86, 87. So yeah, basically you go into this kind of loop, which is quite enjoyable, really. Yeah, I mean, the build is quite straightforward. You use Iron Maelstrom 3 times. You have a cooldown of 7 seconds, or could be 12 seconds. Your Unbroken Chain is going to basically reduce the cooldown by 13.3 seconds. At the same time, it's going to make sure that the enemies deal less damage to you as well. So basically that means you don't have to worry about cooldowns too much, right? So all you have to do is cast Iron Maelstrom, and then use Steel Grasp as well. Bam, you got another one, and another one, and another one, and you basically want to cast your 3 shouts after the 3rd stack. They last for about 8 seconds, so that's pretty much just about enough time for you to cast your 3rd swap of weapons, where they overpower for a lot of damage. So that's pretty much what you want to do. And yeah, it's a great build, really. I think it's gonna have the AoE, it's gonna have the intensity. The one thing that you do wanna kind of pay attention to is the global cooldown stat. Now, if you don't have this global cooldown stat, what's going to happen is your Iron Maelstrom is going to start throttling. So there's like an internal cooldown between the weapon swaps, and if you don't have enough cooldown, it will start throttling. As you can see, look at that. So there's like an internal cooldown. It's quite annoying, right? So that's why you really need the cooldown. If you have a lot of attack speed and 0 cooldown, you're gonna throttle even more. Having global cooldown seems to be the key. I'm not sure, it looks like a bug. A lot of people a few people on the forums have been complaining about it, so maybe it will get fixed. Let's hope so. After all, it's only the PTR, right? So we don't even know if the damages, so the multiplicative damage is gonna stay the same, but if they do, or they stay somewhat the same, it's gonna be crazy build. It's gonna be a crazy build. Anyway, let's have a look at the Paragons. Now the Paragons, we can just get away from Variano. Paragons are kind of simple. You basically pump up as much maximum life as you can. I'll be honest with you, that's not enough maximum life for a barb. It's a bit can get a bit dodgy and scary, right? So yeah, you just want to make sure that you overpower as much as you can. The reason why you want to overpower as much as you can is you have a guaranteed overpower on every 3rd rotation, right? So that's smashing. However, you do want to overpower as often as you can, and the reason for it is Bonebreaker now gives you 80% more multiplicative damage to your ultimate skills, so you really want to overpower. That's why you have Dominate here. Obviously it gives you overpower damage anyway as a multiplicative, so that's good. You want to have Rumble. Rumble is always good. Perfect. Now the Max Fury is quite good, right? So you want to have Max Fury, and the reason for the Max Fury is if you're using swords are basically the safer option, because you get more life, you get more damage reduction, and you get a decent amount of damage as well. Maces are the DPS master, so they're gonna give you way more damage, but the swords are gonna give you like a balanced kind of approach. So the more fury you have, the more damage your Amaladin is gonna do, and basically the 3rd hit is with the one-handers. So when you hit the 9th time and your Earth Striker procs, you're gonna do terrible amount of damage. So this is pretty much the reason why you want to have more and more fury. Now that's fine, this board is fine, the Wallbringer is fine, get a bit more extra max life, all that. We've covered up the Bonebreaker, all of your defensive max lives, Challenger aspect, glyph, sorry, all good. Now damage to healthy. I'll get to damage to healthy and damage to injured in a bit. Now obviously next bolt, which is Weapon Master, more max fury, all of that. Great. Now your bread and butter is going to be damage to injured with this build. Basically damage to injured and damage to healthy is like an additive stat, right? So Weapons Master just gives you 30% more from any source that you have, so that's great. The thing is, what Weapons Master does is it boosts your damage to injured and healthy bonus, and what Iron Maelstrom does is, when you get to rank 5, is it increases your damage by 80% multiplicatively of your damage to injured and healthy bonuses. So if you have 2000 damage to injured, or maybe 2500 or 700, you get 4294% multiplicative damage to your Iron Maelstrom. So This is the reason why I mentioned earlier, you really want to kind of invest into damage to injured. This is the best multiplier I've seen by far. This is a monster multiplier. I've never seen such a multiplier in Diablo 4 ever. This is crazy, absolutely crazy. So, wow, you know, like literally wow. And Weapon Master just boosts the additive, which in turn the additive gets multiplied by 80% and you get to that figure. Crazy stuff. Last but not least, you get the Blood Rage. You want to get 45%, you know, with ambidextrous. Obviously the one-hander is doing the most of the work, the most of the damage in the end of the day. You know, damage reduction from bleeding enemies, because your second weapon basically bleeds them. So yeah, it's like a bit of a defensive and a bit more max life here. Damage to Berserking to make up for the 45%. Right. So more or less, these are the Paragons. And I'll be honest with you, like this build can, with these kind of damages, like about 160 billion and 200 billion, it can clear up pretty much any kind of bit up to 100, even more. I'm sure we can push it to 120 or maybe 140. I'm yet to kind of figure out everything, so actually I'm just gonna go for a bit here and just kind of showcase you what the build can do. I would recommend going with the swords, especially if you're new to the build or new to Barb and you want to kind of keep it safe. Having only 30k max life, it's a bit dangerous. It's a bit dangerous, right? So having about 50 is a bit better for sure. Now there's going to be a lot of new seasonal gems which are going to improve the quality of life, and they're going to increase our damage here even more, and the witchcraft powers. So that's going to be crazy overall by itself. But by the looks of it, compared to my death blow, which is you know, barely able to do 40 billions on bosses only, this thing doing left and right 150, 200 billions is just a huge boost. I don't know if that's gonna be enough for the next season. We're gonna find out, but it looks like it will be, based on the PTR. So yeah, looks like a great build, really. As you can see, on the third rotation is where we land the actual damage. Before that, it's alright, but it's not so great. As you can see, even with 60k life, we tend to take some hits. So yeah, we kind of want to be still a bit careful, but yeah, the pit is not a trouble for us. We can clear it. We're not as fast as a Spiritborn. We're probably never going to be as good as a Spiritborn with this build, but it is something. It is way better than what it used to be. So last season Iron Maelstrom couldn't do as much. This season Iron Maelstrom is basically nowhere near to be found, and it looks like they've kind of made sure that the build is functional now, and I would say this is probably one of the builds which is going to be quite popular. We're looking at Earthquake Holder, we're looking at probably like Earthquake build on his own, but Iron Maelstrom is probably gonna be one of those. Right guys, I will have to get going for work, so I hope you enjoy the PTR. I hope everything goes well. Let's hope that they kind of keep building the build in this state, and I'll leave notes and info into the description of the YouTube, and there's going to be the link to the build as well, so feel free to check it out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice one. Cheers.